A fighting chance. The most important point I think made in this short is how you can sum it up with what's good for the Dowitchers is good for humanity. I mean, this isn't as if it's one sacrifice from us for the betterment of animals. It's a sacrifice that we're making at the expense of ourselves and at the expense of these animals. So, rehydrating these places, making sure that the water is clean and there in the first place, goes a long way in combating climate change and protecting both our species and so many others. And this point is beautifully articulated in this piece.
A fighting chance. Fantastic music and really a great introduction. The cinematography in this was stunning, absolutely stunning. The Klamath, I hope I'm saying that right, the Klamath Basin is beautiful. It's breathtaking. And I loved how the filmmakers added in the old photos. The interviews were great too. I mean, everything was it was educational. It was very informative. And also seeing the difference between what the basin looked like years ago to what it looks like now. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. I loved this film because it really put a spotlight on how important it is to care for our wildlife and protect all of our natural resources. So great job.
A fighting chance. I really enjoyed this. I thought this gave a lot of really interesting information and it was really educational, but it also kind of highlighted how not only were they very clear about why they were trying to kind of restore the wetlands, but also when they were clear about what steps they kind of took and the effect that it was having and the impact that they were already seeing and why that was so important. And like, for example, the when they're talking about the bird and how that's a great kind of indicator of the health of the wetlands as well. So it's really educational and you're able to see with, not that it took no effort, obviously they, did have to restore it and they, had to make sure they were doing it the correct way and everything like that. And like, I'm sure that it took a lot more effort than the quick video kind of showed us, but how returning the water to the wetlands and they saw so much growth and so much activity and life return so quickly. I think they said within, I want to say like 6 months or something like that, they were already seeing like real effective, real like noteworthy changes in the wetlands. And I thought that that was just such a beautiful kind of message that I feel like in a lot of places with a little bit of very, or not a little bit, I don't want to diminish that, but with relatively little or relatively, not a ton of, commitment, but very conscientious changes, how the lands kind of flourished. And it just made me think of how many other situations and places are exactly like that, where wouldn't take, a ton of effort, but it would take very conscious, very targeted effort, and how we could, potentially see more changes like that that are so quick and so fantastic as well, getting to see the kind of rebound effects of, restoring wetlands. And I thought it was such a great kind of thing to see, especially when most of the time we see and we hear about, rather devastating news a lot of the time, in whatever aspect of news it is, whether, it's disasters or it's, whatever pop culture or, natural disasters or things have happened, but getting to see the kind of efforts and the effects of restoration, I think is really great. And I think it kind of will help buoy the efforts to continue restoring and continue the kind of environmental work and things like that, because you're getting to see those good effects. And I think that it helps make all of the effort in all other areas worth it when you see success like that.
This documentary film, A Fighting Chance, is based on the wetlands of the Klamath Basin and the wildlife and migratory birds that rely on the wetlands there. Because of drought and climate change in California, there has been a lot of water loss, which has really affected the lakes and the birds' sources for food. It's amazing how they were really able to make a huge difference by adding water back into the areas, and it kind of fixes the problem itself. Also, I really loved that they were able to connect the animals to plants, to water in such a comprehensive and digestible way. The added water creates more plant growth, which leads to the creation of moss, and then marshes, which is what the birds rely on for sustenance. And they're able to find out more about the health of these ecosystems and lakes based on the behavior and health of these birds. So it's just really interesting the way that they were able to connect it all together. The documentary overall was very clear and flowed in a way that kept the viewer engaged throughout.